Okay, I'm just making a quick video right now to just talk about like is Hasta worth it? And my conclusion to this is yes, Hasta is worth it. There's two scenarios where you can decide to use Hasta, or three. The first one is you don't have. Actually, I'll end with this one. Okay. The first one is the stake hasn't started. You decide you're going to use Hasta and you let the guy hit you first while you have Hasta on, and then you start whipping and switching to Hasta, etc. You get it? You don't know who has PID, you just know that you let him get the first hit. And if you do that every single time, and you let him get first hit, so you can call it he has PID, but it's not really having PID, he just has first hit. He's always one hit ahead of you or equal to you. Because the first hit he's ahead and then you hit, you're equal, and then he's ahead, you're equal, so you're never ahead. This is the same scenario kind of as if you don't have PID, except this time you decided not to because you put on your Hasta first, so okay, I don't think I have to just explain too much, there's no point really just rambling, but yeah, if you do that and you just put on Hasta and you decide you're going to let him get first hit, you get a 1.05 win-loss ratio. And if you instead decide to um, only use it if you know you don't have PID, that would probably increase your chances a lot, because if you have PID in a stake, actually, yeah, we can calculate it. I have the data right here. Basically, if you have PID in a stake, right, how it works is the chances of winning, you can replicate it with the x plus 1, I mean 1 plus x over 1 minus x, where x is the amount of chances, like over 50% that you have of winning. When you have PID, you have around 58% chance of winning. That leaves 42 for the opponent, and that's a like 1.4. Let's just say 1.4, right? 1.4, so an average outcome of about 0.19, and if you don't have PID, you get an average outcome of 0.05. So if we do, I mean 0.025, yeah, 0.025. So you can do 0.19 plus 0.025. That gives you an average of 21.5% if you use it carefully. Um, which means basically what would happen on average is 50% of the time, if you're not using a Hasta, right? 50% of the time you will hit and you're gonna have PID and you get a 58% chance of winning. And then the other 50% of the time you don't have PID and then you hit and you have a 58% chance of losing. And then in that scenario, if you have Hasta, instead of having a 58% chance of losing, you decide to use Hasta, and that leaves you with about a 49% chance of losing, or it's around there, right? It's not what I meant to do. I meant to do 51 divided by 49. Yes, it's around the 51% chance of winning if you don't have PID instead of a 42, which is absolutely insane if you think about it. So yes, Hasta is absolutely worth using. If you're thinking, oh, what about people who use Dragon Warhammer for the first hit? Is that really overpowered, you know, because it has more accuracy? No, that makes a difference of 155 over 154 accuracy for your first hit, um, which means that every 155 times you hit with the Dragon Warhammer, your opponent will hit you 154 times, like on the first hit. It's only one hit per stake, you get 155 over 154, so maybe if you wanted, it would change something in the long run, but the reason people use it isn't for that. It's because if you don't use a Dragon Warhammer, you'll end up maybe facing an opponent which will try to fuck you up and get like a one tick delay, or you might fuck up and you're gonna have a one tick delay between tentacle hit and Hasta block. and that's hard to do on World 2 if you're in the US. I have over 600 millisecond ping. I have over a tick delay when I play on World 2, so if you're staking, it's almost impossible to do it perfectly if you only have a one tick um, like a delay between the when you have to change weapon and click on the opponent, because you're gonna end up hitting with Hasta and shit, and you don't want that to happen. And where the Dragon Warhammer comes in handy is that it's a 6 tick weapon, and Hasta, well, I mean, Hasta doesn't matter, but Tentacle is 4 tick. So you end up creating a 2 tick cycle between where you have to switch to your whip. It's going to be switch to your whip, click the opponent, 2 ticks, click Hasta, 2 ticks, and then restart. And what would happen sometimes is the cycle would be something like, if you weren't using Dragon Warhammer, the cycle could be uh, click Tentacle, click opponent, 3 ticks, click Hasta, 1 tick, click Tentacle, and you can't do that on World 2 because the 1 tick, you won't even equip your Tentacle before you have to. You won't even equip the Hasta before you have to equip the Tentacle again, which will still be over here, and the tick will already happen, and you won't have time to click it. So that's why using Dragon Warhammer is good, because even if you fuck up a bit, unless you have an over 1.2 second delay on World 2, you shouldn't have any problems. So using Dragon Warhammer isn't worth it because of how OP it is, it's just worth it because it makes you less likely to fuck up. And if you want to mess with your opponent and you're really confident in a stake, if you're really confident that you can do it, and he's using Dragon Warhammer, try to get a 5 tick delay between one of your hits instead of a 4 ticks. So you would do that by hitting and then doing this. I just hit, that was a 5 tick. You don't have to pick up an item, but you just have to click on the ground when you're gonna attack and click your opponent straight after, and hopefully it will work. You can turn your auto retaliate off, click on the ground, wait 4 ticks, click on the opponent. On the 5th tick, you're gonna hit. But honestly, it's probably not worth doing. Um, but what I would recommend is if someone's using Hasta on you, make sure you stealth switch. By stealth switching, I mean if you're using a whip, you're gonna have 3 combat styles, right? Accurate, shared, and defensive. You're gonna hit on accurate and block on defensive. This will give you probably an average outcome of slightly higher than 1 instead of around 0.95 if your opponent is using Hasta. So you definitely want to style switch. If you don't style switch though, just leave it on accurate. I mean on shared if you're just too stressed out to style switch or something. Always stake on shared. I might do some tests with like, is shared better than accurate, like by that much? And actually, I think it might not be, because when you think about it, the bonus of shared is that you get +1 strength, +1 attack, and +1 defense. And on accurate, you get +3 attack. On defensive, you get +3 defense. And you don't need the +1 strength from shared, because that won't give you a max hit. You would get the max hit if it gave +2, I think. So that means staking on shared only gives you like 1 attack and 1 defense, where staking on accurate or defensive would give you 3 attack or 3 defense. So that might be worth considering, but honestly, I just stake on shared and I hope for the best, and usually it's really good. But if you don't plan on staking on shared, I would say stake on accurate instead of defensive. Every time I'm on low HP and I put it on defensive, I get fucking hit a 20 right in the fucking forehead. I've never won a stake on defensive. I've won once a 20 mil stake when I was doing 99 agility and I burnt out. I staked 20 mil and I was on defensive. I've never tanked once being on defensive. I've never noticed any difference. Although when you switch to accurate when you're staking, it feels like you're more accurate, but then the tentacle is so accurate that on no armor that it doesn't really make a difference whether you're on accurate or not. So it's just maybe a personal choice at this point. Do you want to go on accurate or shared or defensive even? it's it will only change the outcome by about 1% in my opinion right now. I haven't done any math for that, but I might later. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you watched the entire 10 minutes. Thanks for watching if you did. If not, well, you won't have made it there, so whatever.